yesterday? Oh, good. Was anyone not here yesterday? Okay, it's okay. I wanted to make sure that I addressed some things. We'll recap just a little bit. She's not quite, there we are. Yesterday we talked about the why, and we talked, that's okay. We talked about some really big things, didn't we? Was it big? We talked about the brain. We talked about what's happening in our brain. We talked about the simple view of reading, that it took word decoding plus language comprehension equals 1 times 1 equals 1. We have to have both. We talked about phonological awareness and why it's important. So today we're going to get after it. We're going to do examples. We're going to work together. And I'm really excited that we can get to some, not just the big ideas, but we're going to bring it down to good examples. So I'm going to ask you questions, and I want you to engage with me, okay? All right, let's turn this slide and work this. So, phonological awareness or phonemic awareness and phonics. This is something really important. The phonological and the phoneme, the part that we were talking about, rhyming and syllables, it's oral. It's not writing, it's not seeing, it's oral. Okay? But phonics, that skill is the method of teaching written English. But what has to come first is this. Sometimes we jump straight to this, but we haven't done the work for the brain for the oral and hearing the sounds. What we're doing is priming the brain to be a reader. So it takes this work first. So we're going to go deeper into that. So when I'm talking about the phonological, can you see? I'm sorry. You know what? I'll leave this in the you have to So step back. At one point, I might ask you to move your head, but that's okay. So the ability to recognize and manipulate the sound properties of spoken words, syllables. You know what syllables are? Yes?
Yeah.
Pretty soon you're going to have tea and they'll probably give you a biscuit. So if we say, let's do biscuit. Biscuit. When your chin comes down, how many times? Or you can clap it. Biscuits. 2 syllables. This is critical to learn before you start learning how to read. Isn't that amazing? Children have to be able to hear how words, how many syllables they have. If I say cat, 1, biscuit, 2, Jessica, 3. So their brain has to be primed to keep hearing those syllables. And then initial sounds. That one can be tricky. If you're saying, and this, remember, everything I'm talking to you right now is oral, nothing written. So then you talk about a word. You say, rat. What sound do you hear at the beginning of the word rat? They have to be able to hear that and be able to tell you that. So that's what I say when I say initial sounds. And then rhyming. Rhyming is important. Remember we talked about that yesterday and someone said we couldn't rhyme. We rhymed, didn't we? Rhymed. So start this way. You might say, hot, run. Does it rhyme? No. You want your children watching your mouth, listening to you speak. Their eyes should be on you, and you say, hot, run. Does it rhyme? Hot, hot. Does it rhyme?
Yes.
Yes. And then you build on that. You say, hot, hot. Help me out. Hot. And it doesn't even matter if they keep rhyming and it doesn't even make sense. But rhyming is hard, even for students in America, because they think it's the first letter, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't rhyme. H and P are not the same. But it's the rhyme, when it talks about the rhyming parts, it's the end. It's the ought. Ought. And so, wow, it takes children a long time to get that. But research shows when they rhyme, when they segment, like what we did with the syllables, and we understand phonemes, and we're going to talk about that now. So it includes word awareness, syllable awareness, rhyme awareness, first sound awareness, and phoneme awareness. And early training of this is critical. All of this right here is incredibly critical, and it's got to start early. I know this slide says kindergarten, I think we should start it a little sooner in nursery than the babies. Remember we did our nursery run yesterday? Hickory, dickory, dock. The mouse made up the clock. They hear dock, clock. And create your own rhymes. Things that they would know and see all around them. Create them. And that rhythm, and it's oral, nothing written yet, is getting in their brain. So now we can go to the next one. Syllables. Did you skip a slide? No? Okay. So syllables. These are the exercises you can do. And if you Google phonemic awareness or phonological awareness, you will find many articles on this and free activities with these things right here. I just put a few examples. So, I know this sound, when I tell teachers this in America, they're like, that was so simple. Why is this a big deal? It is a big deal. This part, like I said, has to come first so that it gets into their brain and it's oral. So let's do this one. Say bookcase.
Bookcase.
Now say bookcase without book.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that with so many words. Say rainbow.
Rainbow.
Say rainbow without bow.
Rain.
The more you do it and practice it every day. I always say God's word is first, phonemic awareness is second. And I do this all the way through grade 5 at my school. Every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Every day. So say umbrella without saying
Umbrella.
You see now that I'm taking off a little chunk here. And it's not an easy compound word like this one. Now I'm going to take off the first sound, umbrella. Right? Say feet without
Feet.
This one gets a little trickier. They have to think about the final sound of this word. Say sit and change s. Get. These are just examples. Do them again and again. Make a list of words. Break them apart. Put them together. Take off part. Take off the first sound. You can even say feet. Take off eat. Yeah, all you can get left is. All right, next slide. So the ability to recognize and manipulate individual phonemes in a spoken word, remember I said it's oral. And it comes from the Greek word phonos, meaning sound or voice. Oopsie, try not to block you. It's the smallest unit of sound. And the example I gave you up there was mat. Out. Those are individual sounds. So how many phonemes are in the word mat? 3. Each individual sound is called a phoneme. So if I say the word shout, how many phonemes does it have? 3. Yes. Sh. Ow. What about boy? 2. Boy. Children have to be able to do that and hear it and play with it orally before they can move on. So phoneme awareness is a cognitive linguistic skill needed. And it has to happen. Remember we talked about automaticity? Like when you learn to tie your shoe? When you really think about it? Yeah, they're having to really listen to you. And pretty soon, they break those words apart, put them together, they say all the sounds, and it's like this, automatic. And that's what you want them doing. That's why we have to have continual practice, lots of opportunity. So it should be taught. It has to be taught. They don't just get it naturally. We have to teach it. We have to do it early. And actually, when we see that they can't do it, you correct it early when they're little. Remember we talked about that research is showing 95% of children should be able to learn to read. But this has to come first. The rhyming, the segmenting. Okay. Here's another one. Say sleep.
Sleep.
Now say sleep. Don't say
Sleep.
Yeah, sleep. If you say this, these they get trickier because now you're taking out a phoneme in the middle. If you say drive without the you did drive. Say ran. Now say ran, but instead of act, say
Row.
And guess what? You're getting to look at it. They should not see that. They should be watching your mouth only. So, you want to switch to the next slide? So let's do another one. Say football.
Football.
Say it without ball.
Foot.
Now another great thing to do is, if I say football, I might want you to break it apart. So I'll say, break apart football.
Ball.
And it has to be just like that. Foot, ball. And if I say football and I want you to put it together, they have to say it fast.
Football.
Football. You see how easy that is? But it's really not. It sounds so simplistic and it's confusing to people. Like, really? All this really matters? 100% it really matters. So the more you play with those words, the more you segment them, put them together, the better they're going to read. And just like we showed in simple view reading, that has to come first. So there are ways to do this. Now that they've got it orally, you've said it a lot, it's in their brain, you can now look at it. So there's some very simple things you can do. For instance, here is a mat I use. Give me my assistant, hold up my mat. Okay. And then I'm going to pull out some letters. I'm just going to take it in, okay? So I know you say the alphabet here, they probably sing it, yes? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What happens when they get here? I love that, kind of like that, right? So I love, these are very simple little letters if you can find them somewhere. You can make this. You can take a letter and trace it if you need to and do your whole alphabet. And then what we do in our school, we have them, we'll dump the letters out and they have to put them all on here. And sometimes you say to them, put the letters and say their name. So they'd say A, E, C. So it teaches them to say each one, hold each one, touch each one. And then sometimes we'll say the sound. So let's say all the sounds to make sure, because guess what, in phonics, there's no Remember we talked about that? So you don't say, there's no that's what I'm going to say. There's no ba, ma, because now what do I have? Two what? I have two phonemes. Two phonemes. So now I'm going to try to read the word not, and I have m, up, at. So we have to be careful that each sound is crisp and very direct. So let's say it together. At, R is hard because we want to say It's like a growl. You guys are awesome. And I've heard some teaching where they put that sound in there, so it's not good. So really, that's why they have to watch your mouth. Say, when you say hot, it's breathy, right? Breath is coming out, your mouth is open. If you're saying frog, teeth are down on your lip, frog. If you're saying T, the letter T, everything's so different. And a lot of times, teachers don't make sure their students are watching their mouth. It's really hard, especially when we're doing letters together and we say them too fast. So I think slowing down, saying each letter. But the wonderful thing about this, just imagine the whole alphabet. And you can see what it looks like up there. The teacher may have said, bring down S. So they brought the S down. And bring down the vowel in. They brought down the vowel. And then she says in the final position, bring down. So we have the word sit. And remember we talked about in phonics how we flow it, not choppy. Because if I'm reading that word sit and I'm too choppy, I get to and I have forgotten the other two ahead. So let's practice it. So if I'm reading the word sit, I'm going to say sit, sit, sit. Say fast. Sit. You see how it keeps the sounds going and you don't lose the first sound. Does that make sense? I call it flow and not chopping. Because a lot of times they want to do this. And now they're just on. Oh yeah, what were the other letters also? So to teach them the phonograms, you can use this, you can use this. Now they're seeing it, right? The word is hatch. And you can take a piece of paper and make squares, and you put each phoneme in a square. And then they practice that. This is simple, piece of paper. You can do it by color, you can do it by square, and it's like hatch. You can do it with letter tiles. You can make just pieces of paper. It's really, really easy to put some of these things together. This all helps right here with syllable work, with phonemes, and it's called phoneme grapheme mapping. Because the phoneme's the sound, the grapheme is the actual letter. So my phoneme is what here? What's my phoneme? It's the H, right? But the grapheme is represented by the letter H. But the sound is at, the sound is ch. So hopefully something like this is super practical, right? It's just a mat. It's just some letters. And you can draw it and make it. I made so many of my own materials. It's like, oh, no one has that, so I'll just make it. And I can just make a piece of paper and trace these letters and let them line them up and make words on them. So many words in practice for you. Another thing that's really important in phonics are called phonograms. Do any of you have phonograms in your reading program? The English language is hard because it has so many sounds, right? And like even A. A has 3 sounds, yes? A, R. The vowels have their short sound and their long sound. So we would say A, E, I, but then it gets tricky. So you get to, let me pull a longer one out. If I get to Y, do you know how many sounds Y has? N, I, E. Like in the word baby, B-A-B-Y. When do we use those? There's so many rules. And so we put these in front of our children often. We just go like this. When they're younger, they say, this is I, it, I. When they get older, they just go, it, I. And pretty soon, they know all, there's 72 of them. They know them all. These are super easy. I'm going to send the link of this to make your own to Rafiki, so hopefully they can put it on their site. All I did was get these copied and I cut them. So it's just paper and copying, and I'm happy to share these. And it's wonderful, okay? But when I was teaching them the phonograms, I realized there was nothing really beautiful to read. And so I wanted to show you something today because I want to encourage you. I've encouraged each one of my groups to be authors, to be creators, to teach this beautiful reading. And there was no book that I could find to read that talked about IR. Did you know that IR, ER, UR, OR after a W, EAR followed by a consonant, they all say So if we can teach them, that's what these phonograms are. If we can teach them those big chunks, IR, ER, UR, WOR, like worship, right? Work. Then they can read a lot of big words. So all I did was, I thought of a story, and it's about a bird. Hear her. Her name is Pearl. She does hard work. She has a sister, Fern. He does not get up early. So Pearl has to go. So there's a great story here, but I found a friend who draws pictures. And I have seen some of your artists, even some of the students who graduated from Rafiki. Wow. And I said to him, can we do this together? I write the words and you draw the picture, and we just took it to the printer shop and we printed it. And so I'm going to share this with Rafiki as well, that they can take it to the print shop and print it. But at the end is a Bible story. So I want to encourage you to be a creator of your own stories, the stories that children can identify with, right? So, yes, how are we doing? I thought you were telling me to read. All right, focus. So So you got this, hopefully everyone got this. If you didn't, this resource right here, I copied for you for free. And they're going to put it on their website for you. Other resources, so you'll just be able to click on it and have it, okay? Okay. This is what our hope is. Remember, where do we start? Oral with phonological awareness, right? The rhyming, the breaking words apart, the knowing what the first sound is, the last sound. You have to start there. Then we go into the phonics, which is the written part, where we start blending all the letters. But their brain is so primed because the sounds are in their brain. But our hope is, this is where they come. That they come to this place to be able to read a text quickly, accurately, with the proper expression. But really fast doesn't mean fluent, okay? So here's the deal, watch me. When we talk about fluency, we're talking about, remember what I said yesterday, it's as if you are speaking to your friend. Do you remember when I said that?
Yes.
You don't speak to your friend like this. That's what they sound like when they're learning to read. And it can be very painful. And your encouragement and your love for them, and you have to be their champion. Like, yes, you can do this. As they're blending these words, they need to be motivated. So I work really hard with children with little readers or little small books, even books with 2 or 3 pages. One time I just wrote one. It said, "A cat." Turn the page. "The cat sat." Turn the page. "The cat sat on a mat." Turn the page. You can make it with paper, but we would read it 3 times. The first time you read it, make sure they know all the words. What is this word? What is that word? You talk about, do you remember in Scarborough's reading room when we talked about background knowledge and vocabulary? The more you talk about the words before they read it, maybe they don't even know what a mat is. What's a mat? Talk about a mat. Talk about a cat. Talk about what does it mean when you sat on something. You sat on it, right? You talk about the words. Then you talk about punctuation. What happens when you come to a comma? You take a little breath. What happens at a period at the end of the sentence? You stop. What if it's a question? Do we say it like this? Do we say, "Are you having a good day?" Our voice goes up. So then they read it the 3rd time. They have so much confidence. And then they get motivated because we've done the work before they read it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So even those of you who are working with older students, when a word comes before them, let's say the word cathedral. That's a big word. Do you need to get the dictionary out for that? Do you? What do you think? No.
No.
Because what is a cathedral? A church. So say, children, a cathedral is a beautiful church. So the next time they see the word cathedral, they know what it is. So building their background knowledge and vocabulary is so important to help them be fluent. Does that make sense? Sometimes we rush ahead in our teaching and we choose not to stop on words. So stop on words. Talk about the words. Make sure they can read the words. Then when they pick up the little reader, wow, they feel like a superstar because they read that so well. Okay, focus. So how can we improve fluency? Repeated reading, just what I just talked about. We read it and we reread it. I reread books all the time, and I learn something new every time. Think about God's Word. Every time you read it and reread it, don't you get better at reading it? Yes. So, partner reading is wonderful. I might say, hey, you two read to each other. Get them to read to each other and help each other. So we have that. We have audiobooks. I'm not a fan of audiobooks and screens, but sometimes if you can hear things and listen to good reading, and then you come back to read something, you get stronger. So sometimes it's okay. And then reader, theater, it's really fun. Maybe you're the character in the story, or you're the narrator. and they do it together as a big group, and it's so much fun. And I don't know if you knew this, I learned this a few years ago. Poetry builds fluency. So if they memorize poetry, they read poetry, because it's short and concise writing, it builds their fluency skills. It's fabulous. So add poetry into your curriculum if you don't have it. Okay. And what is our hope? Our hope that they can be good, they can comprehend well what they're reading. Comprehend well. And remember what we talked about yesterday. If you struggle in reading, you're going to struggle in everything. Because we read everything. And it affects your whole education. So that's why with the littles, with our nursery, with our youngest, building those skills, priming their brain by repeating these things, the rhyming, the segmenting, the letter sounds, breaking words apart, putting them together is going to build that skill. But we want students who can read accurately and fluently, that understand the meaning of words, but you're going to have to teach them how to do that. I know that often I have to look up a word when I'm reading. Are you ever reading something and you're like, what in the world is that? And then I look it up and I read it again. Oh, now I understand this better. So that's why vocabulary training is really important, and the background knowledge, and focus. We have issues with focus in our world right now. I know I fussed about that yesterday. Those things called cell phones. They are getting in the way of our children's education. And I am on a mission in the United States to tell parents, do not give your children a screen. Do not give them phones. Do not let them play those video games. Because guess what they want to do instead of reading? No screen. This is going to help them be a better reader. Okay. So, we start teaching and modeling comprehension from day one. Day one of school, where you pause and say, what was happening in this story? Tell me what the cat did. Oh, teacher, the cat sat on the mat. Yes, that student's comprehending. Yes, that's a very simple example. Show them what to do as a reader. And I think Robin just said that really beautifully. If you want to invite them into beautiful stories, you have to read to them. Read to them as much as you can. And babies need to be read to, even tiny babies. Did you know that there's research that babies sit on a mom's lap and they look at the book? That's a precursor to reading too. Sometimes we forget that babies need us to look at them and talk to them because they're little. But they start out with that babbling, and when you babble back, it's called mother ease, where it's starting the process of them listening and being able to take that auditory in their brain. So it really starts from infancy. Then the nursery, then the rhyming, then the phonics, okay? All right, what's next for this? Make connections in their life and in their world. That's why I want to encourage you. When I couldn't find a book, I just wrote it. And it wasn't hard. Now, this was hard. Thankfully, no one asked me to be the illustrator. Because I would just have a little scribble scrabble right here. I cannot draw. So find someone to tell stories of their world. Even, I'm just thinking of an example, animals here, or the market. Talk about the market, and what fruits you go to the market and buy, and what you eat. And what is part of their nation in Nigeria, and what's important to them. Write stories. Have them read them. Because I think you can do that. And I would love to see that. Monitor reading for meaning. What's important? What is the author saying? That's really hard sometimes when we're reading like, what was the main idea? They can read it, and not really know. Oh, well, really the main idea of that story was, you're going to have to help them get it. That's hard work. Okay, let's put up. Can we finish this slide? Visualize. I love visualizing. You know how good that is? Let's say you're reading a story about the market, and you say, children, close your eyes. Your mother sent you to the market, and you go, what are all the vegetables from? What would they buy at the market? Mangoes? Somebody tell me what a garden egg is, because I want to try that one. Is it tomato?
No.
It's not so necessary. It's a fruit.
Someone said was selling a garden egg. I'm curious what that is. Somebody tell me after class if you know what that is. Am I saying correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, side arts. So so do all these things. You're walking, your mother sent you, thinking about what you're gonna buy. Why are you buying it? Because my mother's making dinner. So you visualize it and you let them walk through that in their mind. Where they're going, what they're doing, why are they going? And then you read the story. And it really, really brings the story to life. So all of that is in prior to reading. Bring it to life by teaching them ahead of the reading, right? Ask a lot of questions. And inferencing is hard. I mean, most of us are reading books that are harder, and sometimes we're like, what is the author saying? You have to fill in the gaps. You have to kind of imagine what he's saying sometimes, because they're not always that clear, or maybe it's a lot of information. Okay. Guess what we're back to? The simple view of reading, just written in a different way. So David Kilpatrick did it this way. So we know we have to get that down, right? Phoneme awareness, the letter sound skills, word knowledge, and then we have to get the language down. We have to understand vocabulary. We have to understand the grammar, the verbal, the inferencing, background knowledge. We have to pay attention. And those two things together help comprehension. It's going to make them be able to comprehend. But even with our best efforts, and I think about the hard work you're doing. Many of you I've talked to think, oh, they may not even be coming to grade 2. Or maybe they're speaking multiple languages, which amazes me how amazing your brains are. How many of you speak more than 2 languages? Anybody speak 3 in here? Yeah. So your children are coming with multiple languages, and that's an amazing skill in the brain of a young child. So they can learn the English too, but it's going to be a lot of practice. But it depends on when they're coming. If they're coming to nursery school, that's why I wish there were all the push for the littles. Like get started with the littles, and they'll be stronger to be a reader. It's harder when you come in later, but it's not impossible. But even to our best efforts, we know that we can have situations where they struggle. And someone in my last group actually does the work of working with students who struggle. So I think there's people who do intervention in your area, which is wonderful. Do you have students who struggle? Is there anybody that can work with them? I told that lady she needs to meet everybody. Okay, let's go to the next slide. But it's kind of a vicious cycle. If we don't do the work of the phonological awareness, which was what? Help me remember. Rhyming, segmenting, the letter sounds, and then the work with vocabulary and background knowledge, they won't be fluent. So if they lack fluency, their reading is going to be so labored, then they're going to feel unmotivated. They're going to go, I can't do it. And then they don't want to do it. And then when they don't want to do it, they have fewer words with a smaller vocabulary. It gets all the way down to limited comprehension. So this is not what we want for the children, right? We want to do our hard work early and work really hard on that phonological awareness and work really hard to build that oral. Remember what was phonological awareness and phoneme? Oral, and phonics is written. But the oral has to come first. Don't forget. Okay, next slide. We're almost done. I want to ask questions. I think part of our problem too is memory. How many of you don't know all the phone numbers anymore or know places because you just push it on the phone? I don't even know my children's phone number anymore because I just hit a button. So I think we're struggling with memory. And so have your children memorize scripture. Like I said in my talk yesterday, our grade 2, they memorize Hebrews 11 and they say the whole thing. And memorize poetry. Memorize the letters and the sounds and phonics rules. If you don't, do you use the phonics rules? like when to use an I and an E and all the things. You have the rules. I'll put that on the resource page too, the list of phonics rules. So if you teach them the rules, they can spell. So memorizing helps build their memory. We can do that through visuals, graphics, stop and write, chunking. Okay, let's let me see. That's the part that makes me sad. It's affecting brains and language. And in the United States of America, people are giving their babies these. Isn't that sad? It's tragic. So now children, how is it affecting their ability to learn and their language? It's not good. And we're finding out it's not good. So if people try to tell you to give little children screens, say no. No. Okay, next one. We can keep going. That was just a little bit more about that. We can keep going. One more. So, as much as we can, we need to model a love for reading and a reading life. We have to model loving God and His Word, reading God's Word, reading to our children, reading them stories, finding ways to engage in books. Social media and all the things are getting in the way, friends. Be radical. Don't live on a screen. Discipline yourself to keep these things away. And now, did you know, it's really hard for people even to read for 10 minutes. Did you know that? It's so tragic. So I practice by setting a timer, and I'm going to read 20 minutes today. And it would be so beautiful if children were able to read for 30 minutes. Or we were able to read for 30 minutes without getting distracted. Oh, I wonder what's on my screen. Oh, I need to scroll on social media. Guess what we're doing? We're fragmenting our brain and we're making ourselves very distracted. Okay, because no more's life. I love this quote. Few children learn to love books by themselves. Someone has to lure them into the wonderful world of the written word. Someone has to show them the way, and that's you. You get to show them the way. And you help them be a reader because reading changes everything. And I said it yesterday. God and His Word is the most important thing, and I love that Karen Elliott said, spend 30 minutes every day on that. We do it in high school. But then second, we got to do that phonological awareness and teach reading. Everything else will come. Everything else will come. Because when you're a good reader, you can learn anything. So God bless you, and I pray that you are inspired, and I want to see you write stories, and I want to hear your stories, and that you're writing phonics. Yes, one question.
Yes, what makes a child to incline to graphics more than reading? Is it for his developmental stage?
Yes, probably so. You mean,
He loves, if we give him pencil to sketch things, to do things, he's happy. And if you place a book before him, they just give him something to do with his.
yes. Do you see that often? I see a lot of you shaking your head.
Yeah.
What age are you talking?
Well, they started from primary. I mean, P, like say, like P3, let's say it's
Uh-huh.
it's
So, are they,
and then have continued to the teenage stage. Like today, he is inclined to use works of graphics or art.
doodle? You call it doodle? Oh, doodle.
And when you give him a book, well, he doesn't have the patience to read for a long time. Then you have this other stage, the case where a child in the same class with others, I don't know whether it's a slow learning, and others have learned reading. It seems to have a peculiar challenge, but you cannot call him he's not one of these special care child.
No, he doesn't have special needs. He has
Yes.
learning disability.
Yes, but he seems to be struggling.
Do you think that he's not reading fluently, so he's losing that motivation? Remember when I showed you
something like that.
So do you think that he struggles with reading, that he's not there as a fluent reader, so he doesn't feel confident, so he'd rather doodle and draw? Or do you think that he has the ability? So that's the thing you have to discern. Does he have the ability and his voice? Or is he struggling? Like, have him read to you. Can he read it and comprehend it? If you can say yes to that, he's choosing to draw. But if he can't do it and he's choosing to draw, he's probably trying to avoid it. Does that make sense? So analyze it. Say, why is he doing it? Maybe he just enjoys it. Maybe he's artistic. And some children are amazing. They can hear you teaching and do things with their hands. But if they're avoiding the reading, you've got to ask why. Is he not learning it to be strength-wise? Find that out and go from there. Does that make sense? That was a good question. One more question? Did I heard the little bell?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, can we use this same approach for older students? Because I teach students who are older, teenagers who do not know how to read. So probably because of their traumatic experiences and maybe late exposure to reading. So can we use the same
Yes.
method? Even though they are older.
Even though they're older. That's how adults that are older are literate. You still have to go back to hearing the sounds. And most intervention programs, it's called Wharton-Gillingham, it's two scientists that put this together. You start back with the sounds. So even for anyone struggling that has a learning disability, they'll go all the way back to the sounds. So if you do that, it could prime their brain to decode and make it take off. Try it. I'm going to pray that there is something very beautiful that happens with your students. Okay, thank you for your time. You're excellent students. Very excellent.